So, a few of you started asking about whether this could replace my K-line. So, obviously, the difficulty here is that I am relatively attached to this guitar sentimentally. So, don't, take my opinion as anything other than just an opinion. But my experience with Suhr is not massive. I've owned a Suhr Rasmus, I've owned a Suhr Classic T. I have to say this is my favourite Suhr that I've played for sure. This is, I think, about 2017. So I think this is after they ramped up production, right? So for a while, Suhr was quite a small builder. At the moment, I think they have an employee base of, over 100 people. At this stage, Suhr is quite a big company. They do churn out quite a lot of guitars, but I think they do maintain pretty high quality as well. Good processes, plec machines, all that sort of stuff, and obviously they're using great stuff. Chris at K-Line, on the other hand, is a one-man operation. I think he still is a one-man operation, and is making his version of kind of vintage style instruments, right? So it's kind of a different approach, but in any case, I think what the results end up being are two very, very good guitars. So this one weighs 8 pounds and 2 ounces. This one weighs like 7 or 7 pounds and 8, something like that. So, about half a pound lighter. The necks are actually quite similar in spec. So this is the even C, although actually it doesn't have as full shoulders, the Suhr, I would suggest. But yeah, I think there's about 0.1 of an inch difference. So this is a 0.84 starting around here, and this is 0.85. Now, that sounds like a small amount, but I think in the hands you do tend to notice it. Either way, both great necks. This has stainless steel frets and has a bonus 22nd fret there, which actually is pretty useful, especially if you get used to it and then you go to play something at the 22nd fret and you realise, I can't do that on this gig. So I think for a professional kind of use, potentially that 22nd fret might actually be very useful. As well, this humbucker in the bridge for many players, I think, is almost essential for, some working session players. Certainly nice to have that as an option. Now, of course, you could spec one out yourself from K-Line, but for me, I quite like having a single coil in the bridge for that extra clarity. In terms of fit and finish, they're both perfect, so there's not really much in it there. I think the main difference for me, and playability-wise, they're both great. The string tension on the K-Line feels like it might be relatively less because this has 9 to 46s on it. This has 10s to 46s. I know that his neck pocket angle is slightly different to normal spec, so I don't know whether that actually makes a huge difference or not, but it just feels to me like relative string tension, given that this has slightly heavier strings on the bottom or top. Anyway, you know what I mean. The main difference, these Suhr ML pickups are relatively hot compared to what I've got in here. So these are Lola Dirty Blondes, which are the neck and middle are based on like quite cold output, like 5.4 ohms. I think these are upwards of 6, maybe even towards 7. So I think that's the main difference that you can hear between these two guitars, is that this has quite a bit more bass response, whereas this comparatively gives like a bit of a weaker output. And so for the leads, that kind of yields, I think, a little bit more clarity. And for the clean to mid stuff, it means that this is not driving the tone as hard. It's not clipping as much. But these pickups, for me, I really do like the sound of. I know not everyone loves MLs, but for me, I think that is a really useful kind of single coil. And they're not too expensive, are they, Suhr pickups? I think not necessarily what I'd have thought to as a go-to for me, but I find that it's actually working really nicely. Obviously, these have a bit more of a vintage flavour, a bit less bass, and a little bit more of that vintage Strat thing. So, I mean, aside from that, this has got Goto hardware. Chris uses Wilkinson hardware, which Suhr actually use on their Telecasters, I think. I mean, two really, really, really good guitars. Jason, who sent this over to try, actually has a few K-lines. So make of that what you will. I know Perry in the comments as well has both Suhrs and K-lines, and he sees them as slightly different beasts as well. I know they look similar, and they probably sound relatively similar, but the Suhr is really a bit more of a modern take, a very good modern take, and for a fairly high production rate, they do, I think, make really, really great, reliably good instruments. You have to kind of say that Chris at K-Line is doing a slightly different thing, given that it's that one guy building these guitars. You can email Chris, you can speak to him, he winds his own pickups. It's, you know, that sort of master builder approach versus, like SRV3 Fender said, that kind of more team built approach. But both of them, I think, are churning out really decent instruments. So I think the Suhr have slightly fallen out of fashion in some ways, just because there was a bit of an artist roster shake up, wasn't there? There's quite a lot of those people that were playing a Suhr that are now playing an Ibanez. I have to say, I think this probably, for my money, would be where I'd look to spend that kind of money rather than an Ibanez AZ. I've played a few of David's. I've owned a Suhr. I just think Suhr build quality is very high. The only thing that I've sort of noticed a little bit is that some of them can be a little bit heavier. I know that Chris specifically selects kind of drier woods and stuff, so there may be a little bit of difference in that, but I don't know if it's the sort of thing that you'd notice much, although it's £50, you know, unless you pick two guitars up. This is definitely not feeling like a heavy guitar, and neither does this. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Two really, really, really good builders. You know about Suhr, obviously, and if you're on this channel, you know that I really like this guitar. I can say that this is in, I think, exactly the same kind of league. I've not really heard of anyone having particularly bad experiences with a Suhr. Maybe some of the more modern ones, I think I heard someone had a bit of kind of tuning stability issues where it's more of a floating trem setup. But I think they're pretty reliable, right? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if many of you have tried a K-Line, but I know that a few of you that have really like them. So you can leave your comments on that front as well. If you owned both, let me know your thoughts. How would you kind of compare them? But yeah, you buy a Suhr off the shelf and you'd be relatively confident, I think, that it's going to be playable, it's going to sound decent, it's going to have good hardware choices. You know, a lot of them still have stainless steel frets, I think, although I think that might be an option now. And if you can get stainless steel frets, I do think they do feel really great under the finger, and presumably over time that's going to save you some money on like setup costs and fret dressing and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd like to know your thoughts. Cheers for now.